Okay.
My name is Muskan. I'm 22. I study in Srishti School of Art and Design.
Okay.
Photography is not my major. I study space design. For
Okay.
me, photography was something which was actually like a very big fluke for me, where I never picked up a camera in my entire life. And
Wow.
so for our college, they sort of randomly enroll us in courses in the first year,
Uh-huh.
and we happened to end up in a photography class. And
Okay.
just the first day I ever picked up a camera, I don't think I've ever put it down after that.
Excellent. Uh, who else? Purnima? Anyone else?
Yeah, hi. Hello,
Hi.
everyone. My name is Purnima, and I head diversity and inclusion in HCCB.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been about, yeah, I think close to 2 years. I'll be completing 2 years very soon in HCCB, and it's fun so far. And about photography, I think I kind of picked it up as a hobby. And I realized that there's a lot of energy that I get when I kind of indulge myself, and that is how I kind of stuck onto it. And I am an amateur photographer, and I'm not a pro. So any technical questions that comes by, we will pass it on to the experts, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'll
sure.
share
No
whatever
worries.
that I can know of.
So what do you
That's
like
about me,
taking
guys.
photos of? What kind of
Uh,
photography do you do?
So I started with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And post that I realized wildlife also is something that gives me energy. So currently it's about people and wildlife. Yeah, anything that kind of gives away emotions. I love to
Okay.
capture that. Yeah.
Okay.
Your turn, Vivan.
So, yeah, all right. Okay. So I have been doing photography now for a long, long time, 30 years. I used to be the photo editor for India Today. Now I'm on my own. I'm doing basically stills as well as videos for corporates. And about photography, I do all kinds of photography. I like every type of photography. There is nothing in particular that I can really say is my favorite. But yeah. So anyone else wants to talk, ask, let's proceed from there. Wow. Sarthak, you want to add something since most of the people are muted?
See, I'll echo with Purnima.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also amateur in photography. So anything, I mean, the anything which gives me what you can say a kick. For example, a sunset or maybe a kids playing in some area that brings a smile onto my face. I like to click all those pictures.
Okay. So, the thing is, if I can look back at photography from when it started, or rather when I started and from now, the main thing that has happened is it's become a lot easier. You can take really good photos on your mobile also. Your cameras now mainly are like, very sophisticated. It's very difficult to take a bad photo these days. The only thing I would tell you is it's a question A, if you're taking people or wildlife, then it's a question of your timing and your composition. These are the two things you should look out for. Timing, because when to capture the right moment, that is really important. And composition, how do you make your frame or your photo look better than someone else's or anyone else's actually. That is the main game or aim of photography these days.
Vivan, we have a
Anyone?
small game for you guys,
Yes.
which are
Okay.
which Shruti and Priyanka will take you through, which is for the three of y'all actually.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
like,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Why not for everyone?
Rina,
I
if you
mean,
could just.
it doesn't
because
matter.
it's a actually we'll open it out to everybody, but then we want to put the three of y'all in
Yeah,
spot
please
on the
do.
spot. Yeah, first.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Rina, if you could just
Yeah,
project it for
I'm
us.
just doing
You
that.
just. Sure.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so lead us in, PD.
So
Caption.
basically, we're going to show you a couple of pictures. What we would request you to do is help us with a caption. There are 4 pictures that we'll show. Pick any 2, and if you could caption it for us in less than 30 seconds, we'll be good.
So we'll just
Okay.
run it in a carousel. So you guys can have a look at it. Whichever ones you think you have the best caption for, 2, 3, you just
And we'll go
go ahead
back
and
to it.
caption it. Yeah?
Sure.
Okay.
Go
Are you
ahead.
guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Just one second. Can you see the screen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can.
Pretty nice.
Okay. The first one was the quirkiest one we could find. We looked really hard, by the way, to make it difficult for you guys.
It is funny.
Just 1 second. Seems to not be moving to the next slide. Yeah. 2.
Trapped.
And yeah, those are the
Someone has really made an effort to.
yeah scout the entire internet such that we're able to bring the best of best to you guys.
Okay.
You know, Reena,
So
this is like the Maza one. The word that comes to me is Maza Maharaja.
Yeah, बहुत मजा आया.
Cute.
Okay, we
Nice,
have
cute.
one caption. Let's caption him.
Yeah.
2 shocked eyes just weren't enough.
What? Sorry, say that again, Muskan.
Muskan?
2 shocked eyes weren't enough.
Yeah, that's cute.
ये कहाँ आ गए हम?
With the actual slow song playing behind, yeah.
Oh, very good.
And when I looked at myself, kind of okay, caption.
Thinking of people of the lockdown.
And
That's
Reena,
how
go to the first
people
one.
The bed
Reena,
hair
go to
also
the first one.
going to.
First
First
one.
one, first one.
Yeah.
मुझे लग रहा है ready to be roasted.
Yeah, very nice.
It could be called duck head also.
Duck head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Duck
Anybody
on
else?
or duck head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Duckhead's a favorite. So, Vivan, we have this one specially for you then. Everybody else has given me a caption.
I gave the Maza one.
No, Purnima gave us the Maza one.
No, बड़ा मजा आया.
Ah. Okay, well, this one is still
Let's
Lady
try this
Gaga.
one.
You need to caption
Yeah.
Lady Gaga.
Trapped, is it? I feel she's trapped.
She's known for outlandish outfits.
Yeah.
You can say a star.
Beauty in spikes. Corona beauty, actually.
Yeah, social distancing people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, social distancing.
Social distancing.
और भी हो सकता है कहीं पे निगाहें कहीं पे निशाना.
He's going all filmy today.
Yeah.
Very.
Nice.
Okay, we have 4
Or
captions.
starry-eyed.
This would apply here also.
This
It's
one's
good.
the cutest.
Okay.
What we're going to do now is basically we had reached out to all these 3 people and collated a couple of pictures that they consider their best, their not so great pictures, and the fun ones. And I'm sure there's a story behind each of these and anecdotes for us to learn from. So we'll start rolling them out, and then probably you guys could help us with the anecdotes along the way.
Sure.
You know what I realized while I was fishing out for photos is that I don't take fun ones at all. I think something for me to kind of take it back is, you know, I need to capture a lot of fun moments as well.
Because I actually asked Purnima, I said, send me good, bad, and fun. And she sent me really awesome ones. And then I was like, no, where is the bad and the fun ones? And then she's like, okay. She sent us a very nice one saying it's fun. Let's go. Okay.
Let's go. Vivan.
Wow.
Well, there were actually 2 images in this. The
Yeah,
first one
The other one
was
will
the
come
bad,
way below.
actually.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's not what to take, where, you know, I mean, anyone can make a mistake if you're shooting too fast. So basically, it's better to show that one first. Here, it's of course, it's a question of waiting for the person so you can get the line of 4 of them together.
But what makes this like you would have picked this particular picture for a reason, right? What made you
Well,
think that this was a great picture? Like
I was
just
comparing this actually to the other one.
Okay.
So
okay.
there, in context to that, it makes sense.
Sense.
That
I can actually just
how
take you to that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
please do
okay.
that.
Just one second. Just so you can explain the context. This is the one.
Yeah, so this is again literally almost the same location, the same angle. What I was trying to explain again is in terms of composition and timing. This is where both of them come in. So you see the bird, your first inclination is just to shoot it, but it's better to wait to frame it properly, which is what I was trying to show,
Right.
Right.
So we're taking the same sort of, what is this, a stalk or whatever?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
stop.
and
Yeah.
now you wait for like 30 seconds, have a little patience, frame the image properly, and you can see the difference. Basically, what I'm trying to say is your subject is the same, the location is the same, and if you show a little patience, this is what you get rather than that. How to make a good photograph rather than a bad one in the same location. So this is something that can be done by anyone. You can use a mobile for this also. You can use a camera for this also. So we were on a boat in this place, and I had my friend shoot something similar on his phone. I, of course, used a camera for this, but I'm saying you can do it both ways.
Right.
Yeah, again, Vivan, I think it's an excellent point, and I kind of struggle with all this, especially when I have to really capture a moving object, right? And
Right.
I am like running really against the time, and I don't want to lose out on, what I'm going to capture. And so many times it has happened to me that I end up capturing really, messed up photograph. But what you said is makes a lot of sense, especially focusing on the composition bit.
Yeah. So basically, when you see a subject, first of all, realize that every time you go out to shoot, your aim should be to try and get one really good photo. Don't try and be too ambitious on every shoot. That's step number one. So try and ensure that you get at least one good photo. Okay. So when you see a subject like an animal, depending on the animal, you will have to adjust your shutter speed of your camera or your mobile such that it can take fast action, because sometimes animals move really fast. And then it's a question of having the patience. If it's say like a monkey sitting, eating, doing something, waiting, composing the shot, and then waiting for him to make a particular gesture or move or something so you can capture it properly.
This one,
There are-
since you mentioned the monkey, there
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
Muskan's photo
exactly.
as well, which is her
Yeah,
best
exactly.
one, which is her favorite. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a baboon. I think I sent that one in for funny because that's a baboon. So I'd gone to a zoo about last year, I think. I just I like the process of actually staying with the animal for a long time and just watching their process and capturing the shots, like you said. Because it's sort of, I can't already decide what the shot will be. You sort of have to wait for the animal to do something.
Exactly.
And
So what you have to do here, sorry, I'm just cutting in, is frame it properly and then wait. If it's in a position like this and it's not moving, then you have to wait for the gesture. So if we're talking of framing, if you see your frame, it is slightly going crooked,
yeah, it's a
the wall, right? So reframe it. The wall and the leaves is extraneous. It's sort of disturbing the frame a bit. So even if you're showing it next time, just manually crop it out yourself, cut out the background. You can zoom in a bit more. So when you make a crop of it, your baboon looks a little bigger, and yeah. See, a lot of times when you take a photo, even if you take it a bit wider, let's look at this again. It's again a very nice mood shot of the animal here. So when you take this, you can also try sometimes to wait if he yawns, if he runs his paw, scratches his face. They also it takes a lot of patience sometimes to get a really good shot. But that is what will distinguish you from the next person.
I think Purnima has one of a
Purnima.
cheetah yawning, no?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll give an example. We'd gone for a safari abhi for leopards, and literally we were out morning and evening for 3 days, and we had like 2 sightings of a leopard, you know, a kilometer away literally. So total failure on a trip. At times you don't get lucky, you know. But if you do see one, then take, if you're, take more rather than less. Let me put it like that. So if you're planning to take 10 photos, take 20 sometimes. Keep your camera or mobile focused on the animal and try and shoot. Even your phones now shoots, if it's doing some kind of movement, shoot a burst mode so you can capture the scene better. You know,
So this
that
one,
way
this
you,
set,
yeah.
this set is the ones that you guys
Not so
decided
great.
were bad pictures. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably Purnima could tell us why she thought the left one.
Yeah, I think it's the focal point, right?
Ah.
Because the person is the subject and the background has become actually the subject. So
Yeah. So what did you shoot this with? Which camera do you use, or what did you shoot this with?
I shot this with Nikon. Right now, the lion what I shot was the Sony A7R3, right? And this was Nikon. This was
Okay.
like initial days when I was still learning photography. Yeah.
Right.
So this was immediately
So
after I finished my course and I wanted to try out a few things. So I got some, subjects who were ready to experiment along with me.
So the other thing also, which in India is a big problem, you'll see, is if you're shooting in, strong light like this, either your subject remains bright or your background remains bright. So if your subject is correctly exposed in terms of the correct light falling on it, your background tends to get burnt out. If you expose for your background, then your subject tends to become black or dark.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's always easier to shoot mornings and evenings,
Yeah.
where the light is a little less contrasty, because India has very contrasty light.
Absolutely.
Try and ensure that you do that.
By the way,
Like
this
if
So
you
in
see
this
the,
situation, sorry, Sanjit,
Huh.
one question was there.
please.
See, all these DSLRs mostly have different metering modes, and they also,
Right.
of course, have changes in focal points. So if I
Right.
am shooting in
Right.
a top light or a that is in the high sun zone, and my subject and the background and the foreground are different contrasting lights, will it help if I selected and changed the way the focusing zones or the metering zones and tried to align
So,
the subject to the metering point? I took select a single or 3-point metering,
okay. So the
something like
point
that. Yeah.
here, let's talk about the exposure zone. If your subject is in shadow, which is over here, which means your background is far brighter than the subject, it is going to burn
Right.
out. So if you are shooting someone in overhead light, either your subject as well as the background behind him is in shade, or they're both in sunlight. The
Yeah, that
contrast
is
in
true.
the light, okay. So ensure then get your subject also under the sun. So then
Both
you will
have to
get
be in
your
sync.
background also. Yeah,
Yeah, that is clear to
yeah.
me.
So
In
if
case
he's
I am okay with the highlight or the burning out effect, then
right,
to get my subject in proper exposure,
yeah.
then
So
probably the metering it properly would help.
yeah, exactly. So your metering zone, either you can do a center weighted and keep the meter on him. So he's basically in the middle. You need to move the metering right on him,
Right.
or you
Right.
can do all cameras these days have like 100 plus points of metering. So you can keep the subject metered, and that will automatically pick the subject.
Right.
Your Nikon one is a much earlier generation, whereby your focusing point was off the subject and on the background, which is why it zoomed there. You have to,
Right.
if you're doing centered metering, you have to get it back on the subject, somewhere near him, so it can pick it up.
Right.
Muskan,
I am using a Canon 600D. I think it gives
Yeah,
3-4 options. So I think I
it
can.
does. Yeah. So
right.
something like this, you can keep the focusing zone on the subject itself or do a multi-focusing zone. Both of them will work.
Yeah, I mean, if the subject is single, then spot metering works very well, or you can look at the partial or the evaluate metering or whatever, depending on what you're trying to shoot.
So, in a circumstance like this, it's rare in today's day and age that unless it's spot metered for the background, that the camera will pick the background over your subject.
Yeah.
In most cases today, with the kind of sophisticated metering
Cameras.
systems that camera has, they will not pick the background the way it has over here.
Muskan, over
Yeah.
to you. What's the story behind this picture and why do you say so?
So it like these days with cameras, it's very easy. Like because my camera has a lot of presets already.
Right?
So
Mhm.
with all the already available filters and presets, it's very easy to sort of get caught in that loop and stop shooting in RAW. Because
Yeah.
like this was one of the filters I really got obsessed with for a while because it just brought out the colors way brighter and way sharper, and I didn't have to do much of contrast editing later on for the pictures, but it would only like focus in the center and a lot of it would be blurred out, which is editing I could have actually done after shooting it in RAW. But that obsession, like it's very easy to fall into that pattern of let me just pick a preset and shoot it with that instead of shooting on another mode and then going for the editing later. So in one of those phases, like these could have been a really good shoot series because she did have very bright hair. But because I kept on like using that preset, a lot of it around it is blurred, which really takes away from the whole image. Like even the top part of her head, like there's a certain section that's in focus, but there's a lot of blurriness around, which honestly just bothers me a lot now.
No, but I'll tell you, if you're looking at presets, I agree with you there. You should try and do any work on the image afterwards
Yeah.
and not shoot on a preset because then you're limiting your photograph
Yeah.
to a
And
very
it
large
doesn't
extent.
a
Yeah.
higher quality.
Unless you're, experienced enough or you want to shoot a particular shot like that.
Yeah, like I
Then
now have reached a stage where I avoid presets because I can do all of that in the editing later.
Yeah.
Pavan, these pictures,
मेरा
I'm
मेरा
sure have
छोटा
a
सा
story.
पॉइंट ये है, सॉरी
हाँ, बताइए
कमिंग
बताइए.
इन, दिस इज कमलेश. मैं कह रहा था
Yes.
मेरा छोटा सा पॉइंट ये था कि ये तो बच्चा दिख ही नहीं रहा है उसमें आपके शूट में, तो आप मार्केट से विग खरीद के शूट कर लेते तो वो ज्यादा इजी हो जाता. नो प्रीसेट, नो नथिंग.
What does one
That
say
girl
to that?
stands by her hair. She loves her hair. I will stand by that.
You have curly hair, so you probably support that
I
now.
go against that. That was just a smaller version of my hair.
Pavan, what's the story behind these two pictures that you
I love it.
Okay,
shooting?
let's take the one on the right, which is Anil Ambani, which is a very fun shoot I had actually. So this was actually for a cover shoot I had to do for Business Today. And I flew down to Bombay and I'd spent a day sort of scouting locations. And I met his communications team, Kamlesh, you should hear this. And so I decided finally on 3 locations and I said I need about half an hour. So I was told that Anil Ambani hates photography and I have 5 minutes in one location. And jo karna hai usme karo. So I said fine. So anyways, to begin the shoot, I called him early morning at Gateway of India. And there were like these hundreds of pigeons over there. So I got him running through the pigeons. And now the thing is, for some reason, maybe he was in a good mood, Evo, we hit it off well. And he called me over to his house. He said, I'm working out. So he says, why don't you come work out with me? And so I spent the next 4 hours with him. We were in the gym We sort of gymmed together. I shot him in the gym, and finally then he went for a swim to cool off. And this is the shot I got. Now the thought behind the shot is I said that this is just before the brothers had split up. So it was a question of, I said, if Anil strikes out on his own, he's pulling himself out of the pool. So the idea was to use it somewhere where he's coming into his own or pulling himself out of trouble if the company ever gets in trouble. It was more of a shot like that. The actual shot that went for the story then was him. On the cover was running through the pigeons. But this was my thought behind the shot. And because I'd spent like 3-4 hours with him and sort of vibed well with him, he agreed to do this. And to finish the story here, after the shoot, he has got photographed, I think, only once for a photo shoot, again with our magazine, where he gave exactly 2 frames, 15 seconds and walked off for my colleague. So it was enjoyable because he's a fun person, good sense of humor, and it's just really good working out with him and chatting with him.
Oh.
The other shot is, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the other shot.
Any questions?
No.
Yeah, okay. The other shot is a guy called Pradeep Gidwani. He used to be the CEO of Foster's. He just started his own venture right here, which is something called the Pint Room. Okay, where he was getting this is just launched, this concept of having beers from all over the world. Now, Pradeep is a really fun guy. I shot him earlier. We gelled well. I asked him to wear this hoodie, and I emptied a few shells inside his freezer and fitted him inside the freezer. Because it was it was a fun section, back of the book section. So I wanted to portray him as this really cool guy. So I took the meaning of cool and put him inside a fridge. So cool dude.
We've turned it into quite literal.
Yeah, so it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun shot. So, you get a few CEOs who like to have fun. That's how it worked out.
Yeah.
Actually, this was my fault. Muskan had sent it saying that the grainy monkey is the good one. And the other monkey is I was like, this is... Both of them were grainy, Muskan. So.
This is also a pretty cool picture.
So the earlier one was funny because that for a long time I was just observing that baboon and he just kept on judging his food a lot, and that was great.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually this is one of my favorite ones because this is from a shoot this was the first time I ever picked up a camera. So the first time I ever went out with my camera was to Nandi Hills. Like we went as a class and everyone had their cameras, and I'd never done photography before in my life. And so we went to Nandi Hills. There's this Nehru Nilaya, like there's a Nehru summer house or something there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was under renovation, so it's completely broken down, construction's going on and everything. So, and by default, it's Nandi Hills, there are a lot of monkeys around. I feel like the important thing I've realized in photography is to sort of stay with the subject and to have a lot of patience with it. So we went into this one room which was just very broken down. There were monkeys here and there, and everyone just like waited for a few minutes and left. And I just stuck around for a while, and I like this image because this is completely unedited. This is exactly how I shot it. This is like, there was a white translucent kind of a window and the monkey was walking behind it. So all the parts of the body and the grains which are missing is just because that's the dirt from the monkey behind the window. So I really love how the entire body of the monkey had come out. This was my first shoot.
Very nice. I mean, the contrast is very nice. The way light is playing on the body of the monkey.
Yeah.
Looking very nice.
It's Purnima.
Purnima?
I don't know. I'm not sure if it is fun or serious, but this is something I shot in Africa. This was we actually went into one of those huts, met a family, and I actually took this in the low light. It was completely dark. It was in the evening. It was around 6:30-ish. There was absolutely no light inside that hut when we went to this place. And the kid was amused to see the camera in my hand. And the kid wanted to know, because there was no flash, I didn't use flash as well. So the way I was carrying, the kid wanted to know what I'm doing, and the way I was kind of positioning to take a picture between the two poles that was there inside the hut. It was actually trying to see what I'm trying to do, right? Obviously, it didn't see the output, but the kid found it very funny and then very seriously, trying to see what I'm up to, right? And obviously, the mother felt, and she was trying to give me a nice, subtle smile, but
No,
yeah, so I find it.
the light is really, really nice on your subjects here.
Yeah. And this is no flash. There was only the light of the chula that was burning next to her. So she was trying to make food. It was just that. There was nothing else inside except a few small little lamps that were lit.
I think,
Very
Purnima,
nice.
it was good that you did not use flash because
Yeah.
that would have spoiled the picture.
Yeah.
And
No, but Purnima, let me tell you something that if you're trying a flash, which I suggest you can try, never fire the flash on your subject. Either ceiling bounce it or bounce it behind you, so that
Right.
if it's not over here, but otherwise if you have a wall behind you, try bouncing it off the wall, and it'll give a very soft fill. You will not have the harsh shadows that you normally associate with flash. So it's my recommendation that don't fire flash directly on your subject. Always bounce your flash off something, because at times a flash is important, especially in India a lot. If you're shooting outdoors, your face, because of the light, the way the sun falls on it, your eye, your face tends to lose detail. So the flash just helps fill out the detail of the face.
Yeah.
Here you haven't needed it, but there are times when you do need it. So I would say I agree with you. Even I don't like using flash very often, but when I do, you just bounce it enough to just fill in your subject's face.
Sure.
One
Shooting in
question.
low light is always challenging, and
It
if
is,
you have
yes.
not used a flash, it has come out really well.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's come
absolutely.
really well. So one question for Purnima and Vivian. In such low light situations, and if we are using the DSLRs or something, like one option is to increase the sensitivity, the go up on the ISO.
Yeah.
The other, of course, is to try the shutter speed aperture. But then if you don't have a stand and you are hand holding it, then there's a issue there. So which is a better option to try? Should one?
Okay.
Yeah.
Always in the cameras today with sensors of today, I'm talking about the last 2 years, you can easily bump up your ISO to 1600, 3200, aram se. A little grain is always preferable to getting a photo blurred. Okay?
Right.
But
It's
then when you are
always
using a
preferable.
when you are using a higher ISO, the photo will be grainy.
Yeah, that's
Slightly,
what he's
yes.
saying.
Yes.
So let the grain come at time. If you see the monkey one, it's very grainy, but it looks really good. It won't be that grainy, but you will get a little grain. It's preferable to get grain rather than to have your
Then a
subject
shake.
blurred. Okay. Secondly, when you're using your camera without a flash, try and use. There are two ways you can do of trying to ensure less shake. One is to grip your camera in both your hands and take both your elbows and jam them into your sides. Do you understand?
Right.
So
Right.
you're literally making your entire body still, and you're just using your finger to press the shutter. Secondly, if there is a doorway, if there is a piece of like this wood over here, if there is something where you can lean the camera against either a wall or a table or something to help gain a little stability to your shot if the light is low. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? Take the
Yeah,
support
absolutely.
of some object around you.
Yeah,
I
sometimes
mean,
like window seals or railings come in handy.
yeah, or a tree, or a doorway, or a window, or a small table. Because if you're talking of low light, if you use these supports, I have myself shot at maybe, if the subject is not moving at even half a second, 1/4 of a second, and got pin sharp images.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Shruti.
Yeah, Shruti,
Thank
go
you
ahead.
for those wonderful insights, Vivan, Purnima, and Muskan. So the main reason for us to, have all the three experts here is to pick your brains about the photography-related questions. So now we have a couple of questions for you all.
Yeah, please.
So Purnima, I go with you. So here is a question for you. So we kind of stalked your Instagram profile and we saw a lot of interesting animal photography. So I just have this question for you, like what did you find different while trying to capture an animal in the wild on camera? Because it's very different from capturing a human emotion, right? So how did you find it different? Like
Yeah. So as I said, I always felt I've been doing photography for a couple of years now, but I had never ventured out into wildlife photography. And I always felt that I'm not cut out to do wildlife photography because somehow it was a mindset that I used to have that I'm always getting energized by looking at people, their emotion, capturing those moments, and kind of rejoicing later on. But when this whole, I mean, when I went to Masai Mara, I went with the full prep. I had a good lens, good camera, and I said, let me just experiment. And I spent almost 4 to 5 days in the forest, in the Masai forest. And I realized the first day itself, there was so much of energy looking at, emotions are not just for humans, it is for wildlife as well, it's for animals as well. And the movement, capturing those close shots in terms of what they're trying to, tell us, in terms of the way they look at us, the fear that, they have in their eyes, also in terms of how territorial they get. It was fascinating. It was really, really fascinating to experience that. So I know I am looking forward to many more in the years to come, but I really enjoyed it.
Purnima, just out of curiosity, which has been the quirkiest animal that you've actually shot?
Shot.
Which is the
Quirkiest animal. Like, where you're like, this is so hilarious, or this is so fun, or this is so cute.
Yeah, it was a baboon.
I think that seems to
I
be the
actually,
favorite.
yeah, so I actually, I mean, people were actually making fun of me. I had a few experts also along with me, and I could not distinguish because of the distance into the front and the back. And I was just going on taking the photographs, and finally people had to tell me, let it turn around. I find it very funny and hilarious.
Muskan, you click a lot of abstract stuff and you've done a lot of that work for us as well. What's the most weirdest thing that you would probably have shot?
The weirdest, it comes like last year's shoot, honestly. It's just, it
The
was
face
something,
painting stuff?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was very, not like, I tend to, when I shoot portraits of people, I tend to not keep a very strict plan in mind already, because with each person, the way you shoot them, the way they sort of respond to a camera is very different. And the way how comfortable people are inside a frame is very different for each person, and you have to sort of find what expression of theirs will suit them well. And I did it with a bunch of people I didn't know at all.
Right. Yeah.
And last year's shoot was inspired from a shoot I'd done of my friend for me, because it's my friend. I can properly be mean and direct them and tell them exactly how to stand. And then I directly, and last year's shoot, it just happened so quickly, and very quickly I had to sort of get people comfortable, because you have to sort of make them more comfortable in the frame itself. And it was something I did so quickly, but I was very happy with how a lot of the shots came out. But I have this thing where, because to try and keep it abstract, to keep a little sort of mystery, or to sort of not tell the whole story, but to leave a
Keep a
little bit
theme.
out. So people can come out with their own explanations for each photograph.
The
Where
interpretations are
people
open.
should extrapolate themselves and have their own meaning for each photograph. So I tend to not always take like with the eye photograph, I taken just the eye of a person. Because when you focus individually on some features, people's features tend to say a lot more than their entire face. So
Sure.
that was a good concept for me to explore.
Vivan, I'll just take something that she mentioned and you.
Yeah. So
How do you make someone? So generally, when photography happens, you wouldn't have a lot of time. There might be time constraints, or there might be someone that you don't know. How do you make the person comfortable? And how do you capture that emotion as required in that instant?
okay, so your first task is to make your subject relax. So I tend to talk a lot to my subjects, try and make them comfortable, try and have some kind of discussion, involve them in the shoot. You know, a lot of times my own subjects themselves have given me ideas or angles or thoughts that help the photo shoot come out better. So main thing I feel is to engage and talk with your subject to make them relax. That's when you get the best out of your subject.
I'll just tell a fun fact with Vivan. Sorry, go ahead, Reena.
I just wanted to ask if it makes a difference. I mean, are structured people more likely to be better photographers or unstructured? Like, Muskan said, you go with the flow. Does that approach work best, or is it just somebody who is more regimented in terms of their approach to photography?
It can work either which way. You know, the main thing about photography is there are no rules and there is no right and no wrong. I'll give you a simple example. Let's take Priyanka, okay? Purnima can go, Muskan and me, all three of us can shoot her. Each one of us in the same location with the same background will visualize the photograph differently. It'll come out differently. And the thing is here, there is no right and there is no wrong. Okay? It's a question of how you see a scene and how you interpret it. That is what photography is.
Right.
So there is no question of saying that let's say if I look at me versus Muskan. Muskan hasn't been doing photography for a very long time. So yes, you could say that technically my photograph might be superior in terms of the technique taken. But will it guarantee the fact that I can take a better photo than Muskan? No, it can't. I mean, for all you know, her photo might be, far better than what I've been able to take. So it's a question basically of how you interpret a subject, how you get along with the subject, how you see that subject. That is what matters. And please remember this is for everyone who's taking photographs in any which way. You know, that technically, yes, you can judge a photo, but eventually it comes down to what looks good to you as a person, as a photographer. So you see all these magazines, you see people critiquing a photo, and there have been times when I have, long ago, I gave a photograph and without telling anyone who I was, and there were like 10 critiques of that photo. You know, this is wrong, that is wrong, ye theek nahi hai, wo theek nahi hai. People can judge that doesn't matter. Eventually, it's a question of A, do you like the photograph that you've taken? And B, do other people think you've taken a good photograph of that subject or that person? That's all that matters.
That means you should
Here
keep on
is-
trying and experimenting.
Yeah, also
Absolutely.
What I realized,
Yeah,
go ahead, Vivek.
please. Go ahead. No, I was waiting for you to carry on. What you've realized, yeah?
Yeah, I've realized over a period of time that one thing that is definitely required is patience, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially, when it comes to capturing kids, when it comes to capturing wildlife, or
Yeah.
if it is anything to do with sports, right? So there's a lot of patience that is required,
Okay, so I agree with you on the patience for the animals, definitely, the kids, definitely. In sports, the thing here you have to know your angles a
Yeah.
bit. You have to study the sport a little to understand which is the best position to stand in and which are the good angles to take in. Because sports, unlike other stuff, 90% of sports, the 10% I'm saying you might get lucky, get an offbeat shot. But to get a really good spot shot, because I've done a lot of sports photography also, you have to know where to stand, you have to know when to click, which comes from a little practice. But animal, totally, I agree with you. I've sat, I've done a lot of wildlife also. Sat with that lens for like 20 minutes. 1 second you move your eye away and bang, your photo's gone.
Yeah.
Missed it. That happens so often, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you keep trying, like you're saying, it's all a game of patience. You will get your shot.
We have received a question here.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do we go about selecting lens for a particular shot?
Okay. Now, lens selection here depends on what kind of photography you want to do. Because, if you're shooting people, you would rather use either a short fixed lens, depending on what you work with, or a short zoom lens. For wildlife, of course, you have to go into really big lenses. For sports, again, you have to go into telephoto lenses. So it'll all depend on the kind of work you want to do. You can use, what you get are these all-purpose zooms, which gives you a very large focal range. But for that, again, you will need good sunlight to shoot in. The disadvantage with those lenses is you cannot use them in poor light. They will show up. I mean, you will not get a very crisp or clear shot in bad light. But if you're only planning to shoot in harsh sunlight, then you can use a wide zoom, like a 18 to 200. Initially, if you're beginning, you can cover a huge range in that, and it'll take care of most of your needs.
A lot of us love photography and click a lot of pictures as we travel and everything. So if someone wants to become a professional photographer, is there a thing that they should keep in mind, or any tips and tricks for them to take back and use it in their photography?
A is you have to study a bit on, or read up rather, on correct exposure, correct composition. Framing your image is the most important thing in photography. And then it's a question of just going out and shooting and shooting and shooting till you get it right. Photography is one thing where you are not born a photographer. It is an art that you pick up. Yes, some people naturally can see a frame better or have an artistic bent whereby they will analyze a location or a scene or a thing better. But for most people, it's a question of practice, practice, practice makes perfect, or makes you good rather.
But is there a piece of advice that you wish you'd received? When you were starting out your career, you wish that somebody had told you, don't expect there to be a rainfall of money or something which you just...
That is definitely there. I mean, you went in all starry-eyed. It's a question of working in a bank. For me, if I look at it, it's a question of working in a bank and or doing photography. I can't, I've loved my profession. I've loved being a photographer. But sometimes you really think, damn, I wish I'd been the banker and taken that, crore plus package.
Passion.
But otherwise, yeah, for work-wise or, the kind of people I've met, no regrets there. I've really enjoyed working as a photographer.
I think as a banker, you might not have been able to meet so many people that you have on this side of the spectrum, and that's why you have more stories to share.
Yeah, you got a lot of stories. I've probably met, most of India's CEOs and politicians and all. Yeah, there are plenty of stories with them.
Sanjeet had a question, so I'll probably just let him verbalize that.
Yeah, Sanjeet, go ahead.
I'll be quick. I love taking photographs of, say, long streets or typical longer bridges. You can understand where the depth of field plays a very good role. Now, as I said, I use a Canon 600D and I use 2-3 different, all are variable focal lengths. One is, I think, 2080, other is 1855, something like that. What I need
Right.
to understand or know, given for the moment the same shot, same physical distances between each other, same composition and same shutter speed and aperture, most importantly, talking about depth of field. When I vary my focal length, it's two parts to the question. When I vary for my the focal length or zooming in with my variable focal length lens, does the depth
Yeah.
of field change? That is one question. Second question, related one. If I took the same shot, same physical distances, same aperture, etc., with the other lens, which is say the longer focal length, keeping the physical distance the same, will I get a different depth of field?
No, so depth of field, if you're keeping your focal length the same and the aperture the same, it won't change. The only difference will be on the quality of lens that you use, the overall sharpness. Now, sharpness is going to change more around the edges, not during the center. If you're using, you understand focal length and all, right? I can talk that?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. If you're going f11 and above, say
Yeah.
f11, 16, 22, depending,
Yeah.
right? Your centers are going to be very sharp. If it's a bad lens, you're going to lose out on your corners. They're going to vignette a bit if it's a very wide zoom.
Right.
You understand? If it's, let's say, an 18-200
Right.
versus say a 24-70, okay, a high-end 24-70, why do you pay more for that lens? You pay, 3 times the amount because your edge-to-edge sharpness is much better in that lens. However, if you're going down, stopping down enough, you will, in today's day and age, with the kind of sensors you have, and with Photoshop and other post-production you can do, there will hardly be any difference in quality.
Okay.
In your lenses, in your quality of lenses. The other thing you can try is, if you want the whole scene to be in focus, is to use, of course, like an f11 or 16. The other thing you can also try is using a very shallow depth of field. Sometimes that gives very advantageous kind of shots. So it's all a question of how do you like your frames and how do you interpret your shot. It comes down to that eventually. So if, let's say, you're taking a bridge, okay, I've shot a bridge at 2.8 also, I've shot it at f11 also. There is no right, there is no wrong. It's a question of, do you want edge-to-edge sharpness? Do you prefer an image that has that? Or do you prefer an image which has only your main subject very sharp and everything slightly soft, so it gives more focus on that subject? It's a question of personal choice and interpretation. So this is something you will have to experiment with, which is what I come down to. Whenever you're trying a shot, whenever you're learning, experiment with your shutter speeds, experiment with your apertures, try and note down sometimes so that when you can go back, you can compare and find out, oh, I've taken this at 2.8, I've taken this at 5.6, I've taken this at 16. Which one looks better to me? Which one works for me?
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll just there are 2-3
Yeah.
more questions that I can see. We'll just
No,
quickly
please.
take
Yeah, go
that
ahead.
and do a wraparound
Yeah.
activity, and then I can thank everyone.
Sure.
Santosh has asked if there's any permission required for street photography. If anyone could help us.
Okay. Normally in India there isn't. Just be a little sensitive of your subject, because I have been chased a few times when I'm doing street photography also. It all depends. You try and talk to the person. Try and, people, the major question in India you're asked is that, kyun kheech rahe ho? You know? So just have a plausible sort of answer for that. That's
Please
the
tell
only
us why you were chased for taking a photo. You can't tell us this half story and not
Of course I
complete
can.
the
Well,
story.
I was shooting this Muslim lady selling fruits in Jama Masjid, and she just got mad and started waving a knife, and
Wow.
I had to run. So when you're asking permission, there I didn't. I just went in with a wide angle. It looked really good. I said, if I ask the subject, she will get conscious. So I went in, took a chance, clicked it. She saw me. She got really irritated, and I had to get out of there really quickly.
Interesting.
But then
And I think
look
you've
at
been
it.
chased by police a couple of times to not shoot in that areas. I
No,
remember.
no. Yeah, I've been chased by police. I've been in this what do you call it? Babri Masjid. I was beaten up there. I've been beaten up by goons during booth capturing. I've done all kinds of crazy stuff.
Actually,
सब हो जाता है.
that's an interesting point that you said. Do you feel like photographers and politicians should be mixed in with each other? Like it's a big political quagmire, right? Like, do you feel what is your take on that? Should you directly lend a helping hand when your subject is in trouble, or do you feel like you should capture it because that's your job?
So you can't have a straight answer. This will depend on subject to subject. Let's say someone has had an accident in front of you. Will you take that photo, seeing it's a great visual, or will you go help that person who's bleeding? If I see someone who's bleeding, forget the photography. My first inclination is to go help that person out. Okay, but let's take it one step further. If it's, say, someone being chased by a mob, okay, if it's far enough away, I know I can't help. For me, it's a good visual, I'll take it. I've been chased by mobs, so this is something you have to be a little careful of in India, is deciding when to butt in and when not to. If you're doing street photography also, there are times when you have to be sensitive to your subject, but more important, you have to realize you have to look after yourself and your equipment. There are times when you get into dangerous situations, it is just wise to put it away and walk away. Especially when there are riots on, I've covered riots and all. Do not try and be a hero and run and help people there. You will just get stabbed or beaten up or, worse. I've had mobs chase me, and believe me, it's a really, really scary feeling.
Muskan, Purnima, do you guys have any experiences which are similar, like being chased by somebody, or where you're wondering why you're standing around taking a photo?
No, I haven't done street photography.
I've
So I
done
haven't had that experience yet.
No, but I'll just butt in once more. When you're talking about street photography, most people don't mind in India, provided, like you're saying, you can explain to them you're doing it as a hobby, you're doing it as something.
Purpose.
People are sometimes a little wary, especially women. So you have to be a little, as a man, I have to be very sensitive of shooting women and kids, without taking permission. Either I have to try and ensure that I'm in a doorway or something and they can't see me. But if I'm obvious, if it's this thing, it's best sometimes to just go and ask permission.
So, Vivan, I would like to add to what you said about how you were chased. So, I was also chased by somebody once when I was trying to shoot someone. So, it was my son when he was very young. He got so pissed off. He said, Papa, enough is enough.
No, I mean, this is the biggest problem I have, or I think everyone will face when you're going on a holiday with your family. I mean, how to do good photography. And there are times, when I'm been in sort of in Europe, especially, where I get up at like 5:30 in the morning when everyone is asleep and go out and shoot till they get up. Because my family hates it when, I wander off in photography. My kids especially get really bugged.
Absolutely.
Yeah, same with my daughter.
My family really.
Go ahead,
Sorry?
Muskan, you're saying something.
No, like in terms of that, first of all, I think the one thing is that, like, being a photographer, you will rarely have pictures of yourself that are good, because
Yeah.
You're behind the lens.
Yeah, but like last time also when I go on family trips and all, the good thing for me is that, like, my dad also loves photography. What works is that if I'm trying to get a good shot, my parents will sort of butt in and give ideas of how to get better shots, and they'll all engage with the whole process. So for me, photography on family vacations and all actually becomes like a good aspect of it.
No, for me, it's really tough. I mean, thank God for the selfie. That's where ek do images aa jate hain mere. But otherwise, Nothing. Whenever we are on trips, there are like no images of me.
Purnima
Yeah, no, I
was
will
the whole.
I will frame the shot and I will give them the camera and tell them exactly where to stand. And I'm like, I'm gonna sit there. This is exactly the spot you're gonna stand in. I've framed it and you'll click it.
And Vivan, I have a question for you, Vivan.
Uh-huh.
That of the different kinds of corporate photography, the one that's my favorite is the industrial photography, especially the ones we do on the shop floor. And I know you have done a lot of such industrial photography. And there are challenges, sometimes the lights are not right, sometimes there are safety protocols, sometimes, the people have some pressure to achieve their targets. So you and the people on shop floor seem to be working in opposite directions. And there are breakdowns sometimes, and there are some messy, surroundings. The machine is not cleaned. There are, rejected, the scrap material lying all around. You have any interesting anecdote to share with us where you went for photography on the shop floor and, things turned out to be any
Well,
interesting that you
you're
would like to
talking.
share with us?
Okay, so last year I was making a film on this company. I won't name the company. They make
Yeah.
auto parts. Okay.
Hmm.
And so it was a big project. So I'd gone there for a recce. I'd, taken photographs of their various machines, circled the areas of the shop floor which was not clean, mailed the entire team the photos. And of course, when we went to shoot, nothing was done. So literally, I had my camera crew wait for half an hour while I was myself painting the machines and they were
Wow.
shooting the film on wet machines or other paint
Wow.
machines just to make the company look good. Secondly, one of the worst experiences, well, now of course you can laugh about it. I was shooting a power plant for Reliance, and they have these chimneys which are 800 feet high.
Right.
Okay. So this was a chimney which was being constructed, but the top of the chimney gave me a view of the entire area. So I went there and at about 7, just at dusk, and there's a little cage which was 4 feet by 4 feet, which could fit 4 of us in, and it's pulled up by a single wire. It's pulled up 800 feet in complete darkness in the inside this sort of chimney. And we reach, I have a height problem, mind you. I have a big problem with heights. We reach up about 500 feet and the power goes off. So I'm in darkness, stranded, sweating away for 30 minutes inside a 4 by 4 cage. Yeah,
My God.
not a happy memory.
Yeah. Now we can laugh about it, but I can imagine what you must have gone through.
Sure.
So then, no, it didn't finish. So,
Here is a
yeah, go ahead.
question from Shubhankar.
So Vivan was just. Sure.
So
No, go ahead, ask the question.
the question is for portrait photography, which lens is better? Is it Nikon 84mm or 50mm? So he says he's using Nikon 85 with 85mm.
Yeah. Okay, so this is again a personal choice. You get an 85mm also. You get you can go slightly higher, which is 100 or 105, and there is a 135. These are the three sort of medium telephoto lenses that people like using. A lot of my friends like using the 85 over a 50 because it gives shallower depth of field. I personally don't use an 85. I go even higher than that. I use a 105mm Nikon for my portraits. So, but I have a lot of friends who like shooting more on the 50. It's a personal choice again.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is no
I
right
think
and
I
there
have,
is no wrong. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I have tried the prime lens as well, that is the 50mm, and absolutely it's a personal choice in terms of the output, what really appeals to you, and then what really, kind of like that makes a huge difference.
So the idea once you learn your work is to use whatever lens you have the best way possible. Really long ago, what had happened once is this Babri Masjid time. In fact, after that, one of my cameras got broken up there. So for almost 6 months, I was doing all my work with a 24mm fixed and a 300mm. I didn't have any other lens. So literally then I learned how to make portraits with a 24mm, and I learned how to work with only a 300mm. So after that, I feel, whatever lens you have, you must learn how to adapt the best you can. Yes, everyone would love these really expensive prime lenses, but at times you can't afford to buy them. You don't want to waste money on them. So learn your equipment, learn your camera as much as possible. Experiment as much as you can, practice as much as you can. That is the best way to get around photography.
Thank you. So here is a closing activity. So this is like an interesting question.
Shruti, I think Priyanka has been trying to say something.
No, Shruti can go ahead. We were just trying to wrap it up.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, so Muskan, this is for you. I mean, we will go with you first. So if you're given a minute to make an uncomfortable, camera shy celebrity comfortable in front of the camera, how would you go about it?
You can pick a camera shy
Muskan,
celebrity also.
Yeah, there are enough in our office also if you want.
Yeah, it's been very hard clicking you people only. I'm taking you out to different places.
Unfortunately, we are not celebrities.
Yeah.
The amount of nakha you've done.
Okay.
But yeah, like I sort of start off by just talking to them because not everyone's very easy to start off talking about themselves. So I tend to just talk about, I tell them about the shoot, why I'm doing it, how I'm visualizing it, so that they sort of have that feel. I tell them a little bit about myself and talk, like just basically get them talking a little. And I feel like once they understand what I'm trying to visualize, it makes them feel less like they're just being directed in a certain direction. So then I don't have to just tell them, no, you have to look that side. When they know what ultimate image is in my head, they tend to sort of become a little more comfortable.
Have you had more luck with candid photography or, posed, explained photography?
Both, but when I'm shooting, like in my college, especially the group of friends with the second shoot, like the recent one we've done, that was a little more comfortable for me because when I try to do candids as well, it takes a while. Like I have to again just stay around that, like keep that person framed for a while and keep sort of having that patience and wait for them to sort of be more comfortable. As and when they're more comfortable, the candids come out way more natural. So to me, yeah, like I personally prefer candid shots that come out during a shoot that I'm directing.
Stage, okay.
Yeah, like
candid and stage both at the go.
Yeah, like I have a visual in mind that they're supposed to be directed this way, but the sort of candid of the process of the photography is something which I really like.
So, Purnima, you are next.
Same question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
yes.
Luckily, people whom I've approached, they're very happy kind of to get clicked. The most difficult celebrity is my daughter, and she's a teenager who just does not give me a pose at all. She hates whenever I take my camera in my hand, and then she says, "Spare me." So what I typically do with her is take a lot of candid shots, and that comes very beautifully. So that works very well with her. But if it is a scheduled photo shoot, I think you have an obligation to kind of pose whether you like it or not. But I'm not so lucky with my daughter, I would say.
I think a lot of people
everybody says
about their kids.
Yeah, everyone says you have such beautiful subject, why don't you do a lot of experiment on her? And I'm like, oh, I wish,
Vivan is the
Purnima, I'd just like to add what you said.
Yeah.
If the photographer is good looking, the celebrities don't mind getting photographed.
Okay. Take that joke.
Yeah, so basically it's the same. The main aim is to make your subject comfortable. A lot of times when you shoot celebs, they are used to the camera, they're used to posing, so that helps.
Yeah.
Candids at times is, a little difficult unless there are two things. If you're shooting a subject at one place, you have your camera on a tripod. Then, if your face sometimes is removed from behind, looking through a camera lens, you can get very nice spontaneous shots of a person, but that's a technique that's learnt and acquired. I mean, you have to practice on doing that. So therefore, it's not very easy if you've got limited time to get candid shots of a person. You only get really good candid shots is when the person starts ignoring your camera, which happens after you spent like 15-20 minutes with the subject and they're used to you. Then yes, they will tend to ignore you in the camera a lot more. Try this out sometimes if you're going for street photography. It takes a little while to let your subject be comfortable around a person carrying a camera. In India, a lot of people tend to freeze up when they see a camera. So then you have to have the patience to wait till they learn to relax, or the fact that, you take 10 shots and after that they tend to ignore the camera. That's when you'll get good candidates.
I would just like to wrap the session by thanking you, Purnima and Muskan, for taking the time out. It's been a very enriching experience for us, and we've been able to learn some quick tips and tricks that we could probably utilize on a day-to-day basis when people want to become professional photographers at some point. So thank you.
It's a great pleasure for me also. It's a great learning for me as well.
And the photography club is also here, so I think for them it's really it's
we've
right
got
up their
together
alley.
the entire team. Yeah, so it's very interesting for us.
Because the other thing that can happen, which I do with a couple of people, is I go out shooting. I have a few CEO friends who are into photography, so I actually go out shooting with them, and that's the best way to learn when you're actually out there. That's where you learn how to shoot and compose, and rather than just talking. So the point I'm trying to make here is to go out and practice a lot more. The more you shoot, the better you get.
A lot of our folks in the photography club for us do that on a ongoing basis. So we reach out to them, and then they're given projects
So
which
we
they help
can,
us on.
work out something maybe in Delhi, or
Sure.
once travel happens and I'm in Bangalore for work, maybe I can try and take out a morning or something and
sounds good.
Take guys around.
We'll hold you to that. Done. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend and stay safe.